So, here in a ride, you're riding in my lap today, not in the passenger seat. Different vehicle. Um, Actually had the experience of buying for myself the first time a new vehicle, and went to the dealership, went through all this haggling, ended up with this Kia Soul EV. It's a 2016. I thought it was an 18 actually, but it turns out it's 2016 Kia Soul EV. And the car is supposed to have a 90-mile range, up to 120 max, and figured that purchase would force me into some positive life changes, and help keep me motivated to continue working as hard as I've worked to sustain my personal health, wealth, well-being, and also contribute to society, and be responsible and on point and on time. A lot of effort can go into just these simple things. Anyways, kind of a funny story. I'll give you a brief synopsis of the vehicle since I usually review vehicles on a lot of these videos, but I'm going to go into a little bit of talk, some spiritual talk here as well. We'll get to that. So the vehicle itself, Kia Soul EV, 90 miles to the charge. It's 8 years old now. Great vehicle. I mean, you talk about quick. I love everything about this vehicle. It handles well on the road, in the snow, in dirt. The one complaint in the snow I have is that the braking is a little bit iffy. It takes a little bit of a learning curve to learn how to utilize these brakes in a snowy and slippery condition. Other than that, great car. As far as driving goes, it I don't know what the 0 to 60 time is on it, but it's pretty astounding compared to the last vehicles that I've owned. You can really feel it. It takes corners great heating, heated seats, everything you'd expect from a regular vehicle, and then some. There's a few local charging stations that have rapid charge capabilities. One problem I've actually ran into is becoming dependent on those charging stations, and when they go out, they can throw off your whole game. Whereas we're not used to a gas station just being completely out, and if it's out of service, there's generally a gas station within gasable distance, let's say. Not quite the case with EV, so there's always planning that has to take place, which is something that I viewed that I could improve from. I can always improve by improving my planning abilities and capabilities. But that's also made me, on the other end of that sword, realize that we can plan for all sorts of scenarios. It's usually the one that we could never see that gets us. So, more about the car. Yeah, the range would be the one thing. The battery in this is probably toast or close to. The most I've been able to get out of a single individual charge out of this Kia Soul is about 56 miles on average, probably about 52, which kind of threw a wrench in my idea that it would be 90, giving me a full commute every day. Those numbers don't compute into a full commute, so it doesn't really make sense for me right now. Oddly enough, once I did realize that, I got a call from the financer. Not actually the financer, but the dealership. So when the dealership sold me the car, they sold me the car basically on a loan that they reserved the right to cancel for 14 days. And then within that 14-day period, they sell their loan that they acquired to another purchaser or bank or credit union. who then takes on the liability for that. So being a loan salesperson, they actually take on the initial loan and then sell the loan. Kind of like housing, all that, you know, prime mortgage and all those things that we've heard all about failing, and same system still happens. Didn't realize that it happened in the car dealership, although I, you know, should have been. I mean, it's banking. It all goes the same way. So that's the car. I love the car. The battery after 6 years sucks. Needs to be replaced. Does not work. Other than that, if I could turn back around and buy a Kia Soul EV for sticker price, and with the updated mileage, I probably would. Paying 10,000 over sticker price for a Kia Soul EV with an advertised 90 rating minimum that actually is only capable of about a 52 to 56 mile. Doesn't quite compute. So that being realized in my mind, God stepped in and did something really amazing here. I actually ended up getting, so the morning that I purchased this, I had gotten off, just gotten back from, I don't know if any of you watched the VW bug and the whole ordeal there, but you know, final straw, threw up my hands, ready to buy a vehicle. Had missed a little bit of work because of the vehicle issue, as well as some other issues and a medical issue. Stopped into work just to make sure that everything was kosher with HR before I went ahead with making sure that the transportation issue was resolved across the board by purchasing a new vehicle with a warranty, so I wouldn't have to A, rely on others, and B, or not rely, but be dependent upon others, unfairly so, and also be 100% sure that I could, you know, make it to work consistently with my own transportation, and not have to put a whole lot of guesswork into it. Well, obviously this car didn't turn out to be that car, and after the day after signing the papers, or actually back to the beginning, the day of signing the papers, I stopped in at my place of employment, confirmed with HR that everything was good moving forward, and then headed over. Thought it would be a fairly quick process to get that through to where I could have a new vehicle in my hands. Ended up taking quite a bit longer, but oddly enough, the following day, or maybe it might have even been later that evening, word came down that I had in fact lost my job. Probably reached other people's ears before it ever reached mine. You know, obviously, since I went into HR and confirmed that before then, and then the proceeding. But the intervention from God there comes when I realized that I was locked into this contract in a vehicle that didn't accomplish what I had intended for it to accomplish by providing secure transportation to and from work. And then, you know, the issue that started to come up as I drove it with the battery only legitimately charging to what equates to about half of the advertised capacity, just a little bit more than half of what it's supposed to be capable of, and realizing that this vehicle was not going to be as fully functional as I needed it to be. And that intervention came when, through some means, the agreed purchaser of the loan, the original loan maker confirmed my employment and approved their loan, but the bank agreeing to purchase that loan from the original loan holder or lien holder went to confirm the same information the very next day, and it wasn't the same. Obviously at that point, if I had lost my job over between those 2 points, the secondary loan that the primary loan giver or holder was looking at and targeting for selling that loan to was no longer willing to make that loan based on that discovery, with that information having changed within that 24-hour period. So now it's after my 72-hour return window, but the dealership is willing to take the car back because of that issue. So it could seem like a bad thing, but really it's God answering my prayers in a really roundabout way and pointing me back in the right direction of where I need to be and where I need to go. And it seems resounding that I ended up with the bad end of a stick, and I was going to be stuck with it, and God stepped in and said, no, you're not going to leave this person with something that doesn't quite seem fair, and stepped in and did some amazing work to make all that happen. And I'm incredibly grateful, and I look forward to what he's going to redirect me to. I have a few ideas, kind of already started on that path. Hopefully after 6 months, maybe I really like the team I work with. Man, you talk about one of the most solid units to be a part of, and those guys are military grade. And I would love to be a part of that family. I realize that family is just as much church family as any other family, but they were essentially an extension of my church family. So I hope that in 6 months I might get the opportunity to start back there. But I've also got other things lined up that if not, I'll trust in the Lord that He's got me heading in the right direction for many reasons. I've seen so many affirmations and answers to prayers. I feel that I'm really confident that I'm on the right path, and that there are a lot of great things coming up. I don't think you really need to get too worried about the world falling apart, because if you're prayerful and faithful in whatever way, that can take different words, different meanings, different aspects, but the general idea of those two words, if you apply those in a positive way towards yourself and others around you, there's only positive things that can happen out of it. And I've just had so many prayer affirmations. I had a prayer that was answered with a blue blinking light in this car. It was so amazing. I'll share it in a few months, but it was one of the most astounding affirmations I've ever come to. I couldn't help but just burst into laughter and excitement at how unmistakably profound that was alone, as if I needed any more affirmations that we've all got somebody looking out for our betterment, our benefit, and to help us with our goals, how we can help ourselves and each other. And while I was talking to my dad about all this, some of these topics came up, and one thing that I always call my father whenever I need advice. I'll pray to my father, and I'll literally call my father and ask for advice. And the topic of, he actually asked me if I was still going to the same church, and I told him no, that I've been going to a different church, that I have great family in that church, and all the other churches I've gone to are just a feeling of family every time I go in and see them outside of church. It doesn't even matter if it's in church. Just the whole body of people around me, I'm starting to realize are family. But when he asked me if I was going to the same church, I kind of stuttered. I didn't know quite how he'd perceive it. And I said, no, I'm going to a different one. And he said, I've noticed a lot of common denominators in the faith, and the things they all have in common are all positive things that everybody benefits from. And the story that he started to share with me was about him attending church and speaking with a deacon and looking into, the work that it would become the deacon. And what this deacon shared with him was, it's kind of like getting a master's degree, and I'm paraphrasing this from what my father told me. You have to spend a lot of time and studying it. But rather than doing that, you can just do the work that I do, and you don't have to have a certificate. You can go out and you can volunteer your time. You can lend a hand. You can give a compassionate, kind word when it's needed. You can do all the Lord's work without a title. And I thought, wow, that's kind of what I felt like I've been doing, is trying to do the work that I'm supposed to be doing and not seeking any title for it. That so much of that aspect of that work gets in the way of just putting on some gloves and saying, hey man, you need help moving that branch? Or, hey neighbor, I should help you carry in your groceries today. That kind of work makes so much more impact, and it's a lot easier to do when we're not worried about filling out paperwork or whether or not we're going to get sued or all this worldly stuff that gets put into that. And I'm so grateful that he shared that message with me at such a timely point. And I almost broke into tears because I felt that inside and I've acted on that inside, but I've never had any affirmation until this point that it was something that I was following or doing in that way for a reason. But if you want to be faithful and prayerful, yeah, church is great. I love it. I love being involved in different activities. But if you really want to get your hands clean, get your hands dirty, and just start doing the work. So many of us are dropping out like flies and saying that it's not worth the effort or giving up on it. But don't give up, man. Don't give up, woman. Don't give up, friends, family. As much negative things that get highlighted in life, you have the power to highlight millions of positive things about every aspect of life. And if we can devote a majority of our energy in that direction, then we're working, whatever that is. And it might differ from place to place or person to person. But if we always have that hope and objective, then we'll always be willing to sit at the same table and break bread. Amen.